if you are coaching someone that's saying is it low management, middle management, and trying to ascend that corporate ladder, what's one of the biggest obstacles or biggest hurdles you have to try and help them overcome to be a better leader?
Wow. So I coach people all over, right? So they could be starting leaders to leaders who are very advanced in their careers. If they're looking to advance from any level where they are to the next level, I always say the most important thing to do in business is to develop relationships. And I think all of you would agree that if you are not good at developing relationships with people that report to you, people at your level, people above you, that getting promoted becomes a huge challenge because people say, but I come in, I do my job, I'm good at it. Shouldn't they just recognize that I'm so good and promote me? And the answer is no, because many times people are all busy doing themselves. Like they're doing their lives, they're doing their jobs, they're trying to quote unquote survive. And so I always tell my audiences when I speak that when it comes to your career, it is our responsibility to own it. We need to be our own advocates. We have to build relationships with mentors. We have to look around to see who are the people in this company who really know what's going on.
When I became aware of your book coming out several weeks ago and seeing the title, I know my first thought was, is this a book that needed to be written because of what we've all been going through? Or was it a book that simply had to be written because it's where leadership was going anyway?
It's a combination of both, Paul. So when I came up with healing leadership, I began my business 4 years ago because I had been a leader for over 20 years, in industry for 30 years. I started working when I was 5. And what I realized was that whenever we have problems in organizations, it's because there's a problem with the leadership. Everything starts from the top. And when you have companies and organizations that are thriving, people are happy to be there and to work there and to contribute there, it's because they get to make friends there. They are connected to their leadership. They understand the mission and the vision of the company. They see how their skills and the job that they do fits into that big picture. And so they're more likely to find meaning in their work and perform at their best.
Have you found that you have to do counseling for the type of manager that is trying to make their thumb expand because they can't micromanage and have their thumb on the top of everybody when they're working remotely?
What is happening with the pandemic and what's happening with people being virtual is that before we didn't have a view into their private life the way that we do now. And this pandemic has caused so many issues when it comes to people feeling isolated, right? They're in their home now, homeschooling in many cases. They may not have their private spaces like they do when they escape to the office. So issues now are more front and center than ever before. So as leaders, one of the things that I discovered during this field study is that leading with empathy and connecting with your employees is essential to lead during this time. And part of that is communicating powerfully with them. But when I connect with you, it's like, Paul, how's it going? How are things going? And it's not that you want to get nosy and find out about their personal stuff, but as a leader, if you don't understand where Paul Head is, right, it's going to impact his work. So you want to be able to let him know that it's safe for him to say, things are good, but, I'm struggling with this or that, or my kid is in, remote learning. So, he's struggling a little bit. And you can say, yes, I understand, Paul, how, that must be difficult. And the minute that Paul feels heard, Paul is now going to show up differently. He's going to feel that he can trust me more, back to the know, like, and trust. And now he can be more open about the challenges that he may be having that have to do with work, because I was able to connect with him on a personal level.
And that is a topic that we have spoken about before, Glenn, the idea of, well, let's just discuss that for a moment. How you ask questions, how you create an environment where it doesn't feel like an interrogation, but it does feel like an insightful conversation, right, Glenn? You've brought that up in terms of your sales experience. You've We've touched on this, but again, you can't touch on it enough.
Well, and I think it kind of, when you're talking about subordinates or employees, it's no different than talking with children that are, young adults. When they're coming at you and you're talking about things, they're asking questions. The more you can turn those around and ask questions and help them develop the perspective that maybe you're going for, but it's coming from them, then they have ownership in it, as opposed to being told. No one likes to be told what to do, but they like to be part of bringing up and creating a solution.
The popular thing is to say that I'm going to coach you, right? So I'm going to coach you, Glenn. I'm going to coach you, Paul. But it's not a coaching conversation like Glenn was saying. It's a I'm going to tell you conversation. So when you coach someone, if they come to you with a problem, coaching them means that first you listen, you hear what they're saying, and you try to listen between the words that they're saying, right? You read between the lines, and you can hear the words, but you can maybe feel a different energy behind the words and say, Glenn, I'm noticing that you are very excited about this, or that there's some sadness in what you're saying. And they're like, yes, there is, because, and then they tell you. And when you coach them, you ask them empowering questions. What or how questions. So how is it going, Paul? What's new, Glenn? And then you listen.